Okay, I'd like to call to order the Capital Improvement Committee meeting of Tuesday, October 25th at 10:05 a.m. I asked everybody to come here, appreciate everybody coming. There was a little confusion over a proposal that came through under the ARPA discussions, and eventually it got put onto the town warrant for the Adult Social Center bus. Inquiring with Jean is going to be I asked what the funding source was, and it's coming out of free cash. And I do have that answer from the last meeting, so I can give you that.
Okay.
Out of free cash, therefore it falls under the bylaw for the capital committee, which if it's over $10,000 and it's more than 4 years of useful life, it needs to go through the process. So to save us all an embarrassment at town meeting and being asked if it went through this process, I want to comfortably say that it did go through if we move forward with it. So with that, I would like to invite Patrice up so she can explain the proposal. You can take any seat you want, Patrice. Vandenberg, if you like.
Can I ask a question, Mike?
Yes.
Why was it refused through ARP?
It wasn't refused through ARPA. So the ARPA funds fall under the direction of the select board. And because it was, the way it was proposed, I raised an issue of it because I felt that it was something that should go before the townspeople to vote on it. Because it's not only the purchase of the bus, but it also creates the position to support the bus. So I just wanted to make sure that we followed a good process for the town, that's all. If anybody caused confusion in it, I'll volunteer to raise my hand and say I'm the one that did it. With that, I would like, if anybody else has any questions on that, can answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it to Patrice. We good?
So we have a tremendous need for transportation in town. Becoming more evident probably in the last year. A lot of seniors now are homebound, some aren't driving as much or at all, or don't like to take the long trips into Milford and such. So we started getting a lot of phone calls about the bus, and then it was kind of brought to our attention, like, hey, let's see what we can do. And I talked to Mr. Fitzpatrick and to Kevin Morris and to Mr. Wojcik. And it kind of started that way, and then it went to ARPA, as he has said. And then it ended up being put on for the town warrant. So to be here for clarity, I did have a conference call with Mr. Wojcik out to a vendor that does the statewide buying, and the price of the bus was about $115,000. So things have gone up. They're very hard to come by. They take quite a bit to build at this point. So I went to the Uxbridge Senior Center and toured their buses because they have a new one and they have an older one. One they did buy on a grant. We've done this before. It was bought on a grant, but when you do the grant process, it takes about a year, and they choose what you're getting. It's like whatever is left over from any of the other transportation companies. So they have a lot of problems. They frequently break down. They don't have any kind of a warranty. And so probably absolutely not the way to go. They needed an extra bus, and that's how they got the second bus they have. Their bus is a 2018. It has 12 seats, and then it has 2 spots in the back for handicap, which I'm pretty adamant about having the wheelchair spots, but having the extra space, because if you go and you park and somebody's bringing you into your appointment, if you're not really capable of walking a far distance or you're on oxygen, you probably have to be wheeled up to the 4th or 5th floor or whatever floor you were going on. So this bus that they had would 100% fit our needs, and I wanted to make sure we would get something that we wouldn't outgrow either. So to go smaller wouldn't necessarily be the right way to go. I'd rather go bigger, and I know that it will get plenty of usage. So I did reach out to the vendor who they use for their bus. They also have a 6-month waiting time, and I'm still waiting on them to get back to me with a price, just to see how comparable it was to the state buying one. So that's kind of where we're at with it. But we get multiple phone calls I mean, every day, we're getting phone calls for transportation because our current transportation does not go to Milford and will not go to Milford. So that's the biggest issue, because there's a lot of people that go there for their cardiac appointments, their radiation treatments, and Dana-Farber, obviously, so. That's where we're at, plus to get people in and out of the senior center for lunch and for activities and exercise programs. And a lot of the people, I was at Riddlebrook last week with the police chief, we go over quite frequently, for the coffee hour over there, 90% of those people aren't driving. So there used to be a couple that would take everybody to wherever they wanted to go, and those people have either since passed or they currently are not driving. So we have a lot of transportation needs coming out of Riddlebrook also.
Is this in addition to or replacing a vehicle we currently have?
When we don't have
Not
any.
have one.
We don't have
anything
one
else.
at all?
No,
I see.
we had one previous, and in about, I think it was probably 2010 or 11.
2010 to 2012.
Yeah, it just wasn't being properly utilized. It was being shared with another town. It was really hard to, with the communication, to get things scheduled and such, so it was just kind of, and it was breaking down constantly, and it was costing so much money, it wasn't worth continuing. And at that time, they didn't replace anything with a new bus, because having it with another town is, it seems like a great idea, but it just doesn't work, because you're two different towns, and even though you're right next door, you're not really right next door if you live way on the other side of Douglas or way over the other side of Sutton. So that was causing an issue. And you don't always have two people going to the same thing at once, so. So yes, this would be a new item.
Plus, our population has increased.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute. Go ahead, Ellie.
When you were first speaking, you said current transportation doesn't cover going to Milford. What is current transportation?
So we have CSM Elder Bus.
CSM? Was that Central Mass Seniors? No?
Just CSM Elder Bus, that's how I know it as. I don't know what the
ML.
acronym is for. And they go to Worcester, and they would pick somebody up at the other side of Douglas and bring them to the senior center. So if you wanted to come for noontime for lunch, they're going to tell you what time they're bringing you. So they might pick you up at 10, and they might re-pick you up at 2:45, even though you only want to be there for 2 hours, because they're doing it in between.
And how often do you get CML Elder Bus?
So it runs Monday through Friday.
So every day?
It runs every day.
But it just doesn't go to Milford?
Just does not go to Milford. Nope.
Is there, can I ask?
No, you can.
Keep talking?
The floor is yours.
Whoa.
No, go
He
through
usually
all your-
doesn't allow
That's the whole
this.
purpose of this, is just, it's
Yeah.
about education and getting all the information out,
Yeah.
so.
Does Douglas still do Meals on Wheels?
Yes.
And is that, I remember years ago, back in the 70s and 80s, it was all a volunteer thing. Is it still?
It's still volunteer drivers. The meals are picked up in Sutton, because that's where the Meals on Wheels site is for Tri-Valley, and they provide the Meals on Wheels. And they are volunteer drivers that pick them up, correct?
Okay, so do you have a lot of Douglas volunteer drivers, or?
We have a couple that go back and forth. Sutton has a whole pool. They could be coming from any town. So we do have some that reside in Douglas that volunteer on the Meals on Wheels, yeah. But we have them from other towns too. Grafton might be delivering to Douglas one day, or a driver from Grafton.
Yeah. And how long have you been discussing this bus issue? I know you've gotten a lot of phone calls, but formally with the town administrator and the selectmen, how long has this been being discussed?
The process? Oh, probably since, I would say, last fall or early winter.
Okay, and I just, question also why not wait until the annual town meeting? It sounds like an annual town meeting type of thing.
I'm going to refer back to
Yep.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, because the selectmen chose to.
I didn't become aware of it until recently, and why it was put onto the fall town meeting or a special town meeting is because of the process and how it was initiated. And I raised a question, so I wanted it put onto a ballot. So unfortunately, the lead time for one of these buses is 5 to 6 months. That's what we've been finding everywhere, because a lot of work's been put into it over the last 30 days. to reach out and try to get all these answers as to what it was, because there was assumptions made that it was a lot less than what it actually was. It was
Yeah,
quite-
it was 40 or something like that?
Correct, and I've heard multiple numbers. It was 40, 45, and 54. And when Patrice and the town administrator looked into it, that was the number that they got. So that's a worst-case scenario, and during the process, she still has a few more weeks, Patrice still has a few more weeks to research this and see if she can come up with a better plan for it, or a better option for it, I should say. But because of the long lead time, if we wait until the May town meeting, the lead times could be longer, they could be shorter. But if they maintain the same, now you're put into the fall. If we do it now in the fall, by the time it becomes active, you're in the spring in decent weather, everybody gets acclimated with the use of this bus and all the other things that come along with it. So that was the thought process on that.
Okay, I'm done asking questions right now.
Right now, oh, you reserve a spot? Okay.
Yes.
Shirley, you had motioned that you had something. Do you have anything after?
No, well, I do.
Yep.
So you're not looking at a secondhand 2018, you're looking at a new? Oh, good.
Correct.
Okay.
It wouldn't have a warranty. They often come with a tremendous amount of miles on them. And, things like this are not cheap to repair. So you'd really want something that make the initial investment with something new and have the
Yes.
warranty
Yes,
to be
Great.
able to get you through anything.
great,
And some of them have to be modified. The used ones might have to be modified.
good.
So-
And I know, we have talked, and I know you've been doing a lot of research with other towns and how they're doing and so forth.
Yes.
and So that's good.
Yeah, I've networked with all of the other, we have
Yeah.
a networking on Mass Council on Aging.
Yep.
And you can talk to any director in the state. And I had reached out for pay scales, how many hours drivers worked, where they got their buses from, did they use a grant? I compiled quite a bit of data, just to be able to make sure,
Absolutely.
even looking at leasing versus buying and things like that.
Good.
Yep.
And learn from others that
Yeah,
have,
of course, that
their
have one.
problems
Right.
have been, and how good is it working?
Correct. And most of them have multiple buses. Not one, multiple buses. Yep.
One of the benefits of that is Patrice is able to view these buses around the surrounding areas instead of assuming, this is what I need, and they get it's like, nope, that's not what I need. And actually see it, get the feedback from the
Right.
people that are actually operating them now, to get the pros and cons. So just through minor conversations with Patrice, I'm comfortable with the fact that she's doing a lot of work on that to try to answer all those questions.
Absolutely.
Aside from what we would get involved in.
No, and I thank you for that, because you've been here with us for a long time and had some experience with one shared with, as you said, another community. But this is good.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, just briefly about that other bus, because I did ask about it. It was 2010 to 2012, and it was a used bus, and then when they received this bus, it didn't have AC in it.
Correct.
They had to retrofit that. That was a couple $1,000s, and then it just kept breaking down. Sutton
Wasn't
being-
handicap accessible either.
Yeah, Sutton being the host community just got fed up with the cost of it, and there was a joint decision between the two towns to just abandon abandoning it.
I do have one other question. So have you given any thought or recommendation as to where this bus is going to be stored?
So we do have a handicap van spot at the center, up in the back parking lot. I did speak with the other senior centers. Most of them are actually stored outside.
Okay.
They're not housed inside anything, but that's how they've been able to keep theirs. And their drivers go in early and warm them up and such, and, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Vandenberg, I'm just going around the table, so I'm jumping backwards. Any questions?
Nope, good to go.
Ken?
I just have one comment. Patrice, have you talked at all to Upton at all? Because they're going through this process right now. They're just finishing up buying a bus, so I don't know if there's any valuable information you could get out of that, but the fire chief over there was very involved in that, so.
Yeah, I could definitely check and see who they used as a vendor. That's most important, because unfortunately, the parts are so backed up. I don't know anything about auto parts, but they're saying that chassis are very hard to come by, and so it's part of the supply chain, and the prices have almost doubled in the last couple of years, so.
Anybody in particular that she would reach out to?
I know the Sutton director.
Okay. Yeah.
The Upton director.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Ben? Anybody else have any more questions, comments on this? Yes.
I remember in the 1980s, I wrote a grant for a van for the senior center and got it from the state. But have you done, what's the grant situation? I mean, you did mention it when you started talking that it can be slow and all that other stuff, but...
So I did all the research through the National Council on Aging, the Mass Council on Aging, DOT, and MARTAP, and all of those have grants that fund transportation. They're a very long process. If you are chosen for one, then you wait in a queue, and then you receive a used vehicle, something that's been retired from somewhere else that's ended up back in there.
Why did they do that?
Why do they give you used ones?
Yeah.
I think because the state is providing you with transportation, right? So if like Elder Bus has 100,000 miles or 80,000 miles in their bus, and now it's outside of their scope, probably give it a quick check, and then it gets back into the system for you to be able to write a grant for.
So is that how you got the one in 1910?
The one in 2010-12 was a grant. I was not part of the process. I wasn't the director at the time. I was just the outreach coordinator. So I'm privy to everything that happened, but I didn't do any of the work behind that, so I can't speak on that. I did talk to the director in Sutton, and I do know that it was a grant at the time, and she said the whole process was a nightmare because they had to put so much money into it, it wasn't really worth getting it. So something for free always isn't beneficial. I mean, some of the years I looked back at the budget, they were putting $8,000 or $9,000 of this town's money into it. Never mind what Sutton was putting into it too, because it was a shared venture. So,
Yeah.
and it wasn't dependable. And the thing is, you don't want to call somebody who scheduled a chemo treatment or a dialysis treatment and say, we can't come and get you because our bus is broken down today. And that was happening a lot back in the day. If you're dependent on transportation for an appointment, and you make an appointment a week before to go somewhere, or even a month before, appointments right now with specialists aren't easy to schedule, so you might be 3-4 months out.
It's not easy to find a doctor.
Correct. So imagine if you get an appointment and then they say, oh, sorry, my bus broke down, I can't come and get you.
Yeah, yeah. How much is this all going to cost, the vehicle and the personnel? Is the personnel being asked at this town meeting too?
Yeah, there's two different articles. So there's one for the bus for $115,000, and then the article right after that is so you have to pay attention to read both of them so you know what you're voting on. The one right after that addresses the position as well as the additional costs to operate it, the fuel and things like that. I don't remember the exact number. I could go get it for you if you would like to, but it's a part-time position.
It is.
And then there's a per diem position.
Yep.
So in case the part-time position calls out today, we would have somebody that could step in and still continue to service.
And that's coming out of free cash too?
No.
That's-
That would be part of that portion of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that would be added to the operating budget of the Adult Social Center.
But not until you got a bus?
Correct.
Yeah, because you can't, why the bus is first, is if the bus doesn't get approved, you don't need a position.
Right.
So it'll have to be added to the comp table and so on. It's not that high of a number, it's very low, actually. I think what you had, 4 hours a day, something like
Yeah.
that?
Just two different drivers would be able to, they have to be trained, so you want to be kept in the loop of, and you want to be familiar with all the clients you'll be servicing, because I'm sure a lot of them will be repeats. And in case anybody gets sick or anybody just wasn't able to come in, they usually stagger at the senior centers every other day. Certain drivers.
And what's the certification that they're required to have?
If you have to do the MARTAP training. So they would do a training for a day. It teaches you handicap accessibility, and it teaches you other things like apparatuses for oxygen tanks and
But there was some basic needs from that would fall into your category. What was it? I don't,
I definitely wanted,
no, there was something on there.
I wanted somebody who was CPR certified,
Okay,
preferably
maybe that's
somebody.
what it is that I'm confused
Yeah,
about.
Preferably somebody who has worked with elderly before in either a home care setting or a nursing home setting with some kind of a little bit of a background. In case you had an emergency in your bus and, you're trained a little bit differently, so that's kind of, would be some of the pre-qualifications I would like to have.
Anybody else have anything they would like to add? Seeing as none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Adult Social Center bus and recommend it to town meeting, I guess.
Ken, we're going to talk about it tonight, too.
Yes, yeah.
On the warrant. I'll make that motion, Mike.
And I'll second it.
Motion is made by Mr. Vandenberg, second by Shirley. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I want to abstain, I'm not.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
It's
Yep.
it's
No.
too soon. I would like more planning in this type of thing, so.
I'm with you. I had the same mental exercise a month ago, so. But, okay, so we're going to make a recommendation to move it forward. And then we have minutes to look at. You're welcome to stay, Patrice, but you also have to leave if you need to.
Thank you very much. If anybody has any other questions, I'm always free to
And
comment.
Thank you for your efforts.
Yes.
You had asked about the free cash number. It's in the minutes here, so I asked Jean just before the meeting. I knew it was certified, but I didn't know if I was sworn to secrecy. And I'm free to discuss that. So the certified amount is $2,480,175.
480.
So 2,480,175.
Is that a lot or a little or average?
It's a lot for me. No.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little bit lower than last year, but it's still gonna, we're gonna still be pretty similar to what our capital budget was after we get past the other expenditures that we have. So because of discussions, and I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit, we've already voted on it, but just for clarity, because of our discussions with the special stabilization account, and we were talking about putting $100,000 a year into that, that's about 9% of the budget, and that's what the bus is gonna represent. How the free cash is about 9% of what we have to use this year anyways. And it's a one-time expense. Anyways, does everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
I did, and there were 2 typos, but I can't find them now. And I figured Shirley would find them. I mean, they weren't,
I have issues. Yes.
oh, you do?
You have issues? Well,
Well,
can we take a
corrections.
vote on Shirley having issues?
issues,
No, that's okay.
corrections, whatever you want to call them. First one, number 1, about a quarter of the way down. Mr. Fitzpatrick, and it says as, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it
that's
means
me.
asked
Yes.
every member, and I'd like to continue
Yep.
on that. If they had any concerns or changes, not a comma, that they, this is me, I like it to flow easy. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But if they had any concerns or
So the comma would
changes,
come out.
yes, that they would like to see in the language. And then the next sentence down, let's see, Mr. Fitzpatrick also mentioned that he showed it to the Finance Committee and told them that Capital Committee has not come to a final conclusion
On this.
about this, or on this, about this, comma, but they supported it. Does that flow better?
Yeah.
I'm past the English. I'm trying to understand if that's what we actually said. It just.
No, there's-
It
there was
sounds
missing
strange
words,
that we
yeah.
would even
In letters.
Yeah,
say it like that. I showed it to the fan.
Has not come to a
conclusion on
fin-
this.
about
On-
this.
On this, I would have said.
or on this,
Yeah, on
whichever.
this. They supported it, and,
You can leave the comma in, but they supported it, or whatever.
and agreed. To put the town in a better position, bond way, right, proactive with this.
It just seemed to flow better if it said, if you want to just leave the comma.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have, we can table this. We'll hold these minutes because we're gonna be meeting again, not that long out. I want Lisa to look through this again and see what that's supposed to say. It's kind of confusing. So is that, you think that's what we want to do? So we could, the first change was ask. And then take the comma out. And then
And put,
the committee has not come to a final conclusion on this, comma. They supported it and then, yeah, so I'm not comfortable saying that because we're saying that we didn't come to a final conclusion and we're saying we support
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I'd rather have it reviewed before we
right.
do that. It just, if I read this thing next week, it'd be like,
To me, it just didn't,
yeah, it doesn't
I
make sense.
agree,
It
yeah.
doesn't make sense. It contradicts itself.
Yeah.
So. All right, with that, if we don't have anything else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's- Yeah, motion made by Mr. Vandenberg, second by Mr. Vincent to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nope, don't hear anybody. All right, I appreciate everybody.